I'm in your corner, friend. I'm in your corner.
My name is Natalie. I'm a stay-at-home mom currently to a 2-year-old. Currently, I'm not doing anything other than studying to get my project management certification. I kind of deviated from productivity coaching to project management. I get to work at a company and leave my house. So that's the goal for, for the next years to finish the course. I've always considered my journey as a mom to be 3 kids, like the white picket fence and doing this, that, and the third. And I feel like as soon as I had my son, just my view on it and my want to have a big family dissipated, but not in a bad way. I love my son, but I realize I'm not naturally a mom, just that vibe. I don't exude that. So I realized I might want to stay either 1 or 2 at most. So it's been interesting. It's funny, it's hard, and it's very eye-opening. Oh, I'm married. I had to bring him here somehow.
So what do you say has been your biggest aha or eye opener?
Honestly, a lot of things, but to me is all the things that I have yet to work on as a person has probably been my biggest aha. My son is my mirror. I realize how much I have to work on my patience, how much I have to work on self-regulating, all these things that I guess you would think would come natural. And not only that, I realize all the things I said I wouldn't do just somehow come out of me. How much your parents' way of doing things just kind of trickles into your life. So that has been my biggest challenge, because I don't want to do things like my mom did them. I wanted to be very present during his first years of life. That was very important to me, and I did that. And I also don't subscribe to hitting. So that's been very challenging. Not the hitting part per se, but just controlling myself to the point where I'm I realize he's a 2-year-old, So that's been my biggest aha, is just all the things that I need to work on, and who better to work on that for than for him. I don't know what I thought. I thought everything was just going to come out so natural. I was going to be doing all the cooking and trying all the things, and he was just going to be a perfect angel, and Montessori was going to be our life. Just everything I had imagined. I was I am so naive. And my son is his own person. He wants things when he wants them. He does things at his own time. You can't tell that boy anything. So what I thought it was going to look like is not even close to that.
What is something you wish someone would have told you trying to become a first mom?
That it's okay to struggle, and that you're going to struggle. People prepare you so much for pregnancy and even labor and delivery and all that, but not the after. So I wish somebody would have told me breastfeeding might not come natural to you. You might not connect with your son right away. The guilt that you're going to feel, just all of those things. I feel like they all hit me at once. And I never heard that from anybody else. I wish somebody would have been hey, you might go through this or you might not. For the most part, you might, you will struggle with certain things, and it's normal. Have grace with yourself. I feel I would have been able to okay, I'm doing okay. I'm surviving. This is fine. This is what it's looking like for me. So I wish somebody would have just kind of told me the truth about what it could look like. Although you will struggle, you will find your way and figure it out. And it may not look like the next person, but it's what's best for you and your baby. And you're fine. You're going to survive.
What do you think is most essential for you?
I would say basically what you're doing. I'm trying to build my own community of people. We weren't built to raise children alone, and I feel we've stepped away from that. It's really not supposed to be just you and your partner. If you have a partner, or just you're not meant to raise children alone. Back in the day, my mom had my aunt, my grandma. You would stay with half of the family, you had cousins, all these things. And I feel little by little we just stepped away from that, and it really does take a village. So I'm trying to recreate that for myself. So whether it's my own family or not, or just people that I choose to be my family. So I feel that's most essential for me right now. And but I honestly feel it's essential for every mom to have some sort of community, to have some sort of village, quote unquote, because struggling shouldn't be glamorized. This isn't who can struggle the hardest and who could do it alone.
How do you find me time?
Okay. So this took a little bit my own fault because my husband's very good at, allowing me the time, not allowing me, I guess I deserve it, but just giving me the time and, making the effort to do that and being intentional. But I felt so much guilt at first. So it just like started feeling normal. I want to say like almost a year and a half in. My morning routines are my time. Like I do that before he wakes up because once he wakes up, mom mode just turns back on. And then I have my non-negotiables. Like I get my nails done, I get my toes done, I get my hair done, every other so month. So just things that fill my cup and make me feel good. So, because I've realized like the crappier I look, the worse I feel and the worse I parent. So if I make these non-negotiables for myself, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to have, alone time while I'm getting these things done. So not just waiting for like a special occasion like Mother's Day or Christmas or anything like that, but, making that time. Also, nails is like once a month. So I would say having my morning routines, having that be my sacred time.
How do you feel motherhood has changed your dynamic with your siblings?
Which this is another thing that I feel like needs to be talked about. Because all you see on social media is like, oh, they're making it work, they're going out, they're doing this. That was not my experience at all. Like my relationship changed significantly, like at the beginning. Like I struggled a lot with intimacy because I tore during labor a lot. And that caused a lot of pain. Like even after 6 weeks, like I was still not even able to sit correctly. I had to see a pelvic floor therapist. I was breastfeeding, so I felt touched out most of the time. So the last thing I wanted to do was talk to my husband. One, I'm just like, you don't understand. And second, just be intimate with him. Like I didn't want to be touched. I didn't want to be looked at. I'm like, I'm in pain. I'm not even thinking about this. So we struggled a lot with like this roommate dynamic that we fell into, and getting out of that was very difficult because it started feeling normal for me. I'm like, I'm good. Like so many other things, like I was losing my hair, I felt ugly, all these things. So having a lot of intention and just trial and error, like are we dating again, what does it look like now that we have a kid? So this is another dynamic. Now we got to get a babysitter or just do something at home because we can't afford to be out. Just being intentional with it and talking to him, like letting him know like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, because I left him in the dark for a long time. He just thought that like, oh, you just don't like me anymore, like you replaced me with our son. Communication, intentionality, and dating, like you really do have to keep dating because it's so easy to just fall into this routine and forget about it. But we're better now.
You could do this shit all over again. Like, what would you do different?
If I could do this all over again, I would savor my newborn stage with my son because I was so busy surviving. I couldn't even tell you what his first, like honestly 3 months looked like. I was struggling. I was in so much pain. Breastfeeding did not come easy for me. And like I felt like my supply would drop and I'd get anxiety. His sleep schedule gave me a lot of anxiety. I didn't even document most of his like newborn stage. So I would say like savoring that time and realizing how short-lived it is, because I'm not ever going to get that time back. I'm not going to get that time back with him, unfortunately. So if I were to have another child, I would most definitely take that time for myself and set myself up differently. Like, I don't know, maybe get a night nurse or something to where like when I am with him or her is super intentional and it's our time, and not be so stressed about like, oh my God, are you sleeping? Are you not sleeping? My supply, my this, my pain. Just be in togetherness, because that is so fleeting. It feels like forever when you're in it, but it goes by like in a flash. I can't believe he's 2.
So let's talk about your breastfeeding.
I found it so helpful having a lactation consultant. Like mine helped me with different breastfeeding positions, with like how to deal with clogged ducts. He had a tongue tie and I didn't even relate that to like him and I struggling like at first. So I would say getting a lactation consultant. And I know that sounds super privileged of me to say because not a lot of people can afford it, but you can get it gifted. Like I know you have a baby registry, like have somebody pay for like 2 to 3 sessions. You don't even need a lot with a lactation consultant. Like have somebody gift that to you. Because there's like so much priceless information they can give you. It's not just about like latching and that's it, just everything. Like I didn't know that your supply regulates after a certain amount of time. I thought that my supply was almost gone. And that's just not, you know what I'm saying? Just so much information you don't know and you're struggling for no reason.
What would you say would be like your best advice for first time moms or like moms in general?
I would say not to compare your journey to other moms. If I were, I mean, I did that. And if I were to do that now, I'd be beating myself up over the head with it because it looks so different. I have literally a few mom friends that they parent so differently than I do. They mother very differently. They have different, values and just ways of going about things. And honestly, like there's already so much guilt on the table. Comparison shouldn't be added on top of that. It's not going to look the same for you. Like I mother very differently. And when you compare, you judge. And when you judge, you start to feel more guilt. And it's just like, I'm doing this so terribly. And then you start to fall into like, well, maybe I should do it like this. And it doesn't come natural to you. So now you're building resentment towards like your own child because it's like, that's not something you want to do. Like I realized stay-at-home mom life is not for me. I did my 2 years. Like I'm good on going back to work and seeing him at 5:00. And I love him to death. But being with him from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, not for me. And that is okay. Like I know there's some moms that are like, oh my God, no, I want to be with him all the time. I'm like, that's amazing. I do not. Honestly, just like the ability to be yourself and share your story, share your struggles, and feel so welcome, heard, and understood. That is the biggest thing for me because I've had people where I've shared certain things when it comes to mothering and they look at me like I have 3 eyes and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so judged. They think I'm the worst parent ever. And I want to have this community not feel that way at any given point. Like you're so valid in what you're feeling. And I want you to feel accepted. I want you to feel heard, understood. And I want you to leave from here like, oh my God, I'm not the only one. So if I can just give moms that feeling, that's enough.
Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, but that's just my funny side. So let's just stick to Instagram. It's Natalie.Coburn, COBURN.
I'm never gonna let you down.